are going to move through our flow level 1 today. So I've got out a mat. I've also got a block. If you want to practice with a block at home, you could also use a book or something else. Feel free to grab yourself a blanket or anything else that you like to practice with. We've got our 45-minute flow together today. We will start lying down and then start to find movement, a bit of flow, and eventually come up to rest together at the end. So grabbing any of those things that you need before you get started. You might start lying down today. So when you feel ready, finding whatever that comfortable reclined position is for you. So that could be legs stretched out along your mat. Maybe your arms are wide, palms facing up or down. You could also take your knees towards the sky, feet wide, and then knock the knees together. But that invitation is there to find something that feels comfortable for a moment as we take a bit of time to arrive here in the space and within your practice. So if there's any movement that you want to take here, a bit of a stretch or a roll around the neck, feel free to take that. And the invitation is there to come towards stillness. So we never have to be perfectly still within our practice. Perhaps that sense of coming towards stillness or a sense of pausing here for a moment. If it helps to find that, you might take a few deeper breaths in and out. Any way that feels good in the body. And it's up to you. You can either return to your natural rhythm of breath here, or if you enjoy working with the breath, starting to find a slow, steady inhale through the nose and a slow, steady exhale through the mouth. That drawing in of cooler air and then the exhale finding a slightly warmer breath out. And if it helps to draw focus towards the breath, you could take one or both hands onto the belly. We're going to be here for around another 20 or so breaths. So you might seek your own sense of rhythm within those inhales and exhales. At some point, you're very welcome to extend the breath as well. So even a second, half a second longer on the inhale and half a second longer on the exhale. Feels comfortable, you might add a little bit more in there as well. Really taking the time to slow down here and arrive. It's up to you. You could stay fully focused on the breath, or taking a moment here to check in with the body and check in with the mind as well. So you could ask yourself a question, how am I doing? And then observing what comes up for you here. You might repeat that 3 or 4 times. Eventually drawing our focus back towards the breath. Maybe there's 5 more rounds of those slow, steady inhales and exhales here. And when you feel ready to invite movement back in, a gentle wriggle through fingers, a gentle wriggle through the toes. Maybe a roll of the head side to side. And then expanding those movements into wrists, into the ankles. If it's helpful, you can take your feet upwards here. Exploring those rotations into the joints, maybe a little bit of a click and a crack as we move. And then at some point, finding a full body stretch here. So whether that's hands overhead, toes in the opposite direction, you could also take your hands wide if you prefer. And then inviting the knees back in towards the chest. Option to give yourself a really big hug and a squeeze here. Maybe even lifting the shoulders for a moment here. And then placing our head and shoulders back down. Seeing if we can find a little bit of length along the spine here. So that might mean drawing the knees slightly further away from you. So our lower back finds the ground. Top of the head is reaching away. And then taking this into some movement as well. So that could be your rock side to side. And from our side to side, we might start to take circles as well here. So drawing the knees away from you over to one side and then back towards you. Maybe you take 3 in one direction and then 3 in the other direction. Eventually drawing our knees back in towards chest. We're going to find our way to seated. So either using the hands to draw up or taking the hands behind our leg. And we'll rock along the spine until eventually we come up to seated. And then turning yourself to the top of your mat. Cross leg or legs out in front of you. Maybe there's a little bit of a roll through the shoulders here. We're going to take this into our arms. So hands start to reach up towards the sky. And then externally rotating the hands to draw them back down. We might keep this movement going. So that rise of the fingertips up. And then floating the hands back down. Maybe there's 5 more in your own time. Option to add in breath as you move. Inhales to rise, exhales to float the hands back down. Maybe these are really wide and stretchy, or maybe they're quite soft today. At some point, reaching upwards and then leaving our hands there. So stretching fingers up towards the sky, lift is there through the torso and through the sides of your body. We're going to take this to our twist. Left hand might find the right knee, right hand beside or behind your hip. Lifting the chest up and then twisting to look over your shoulder here. Maybe there's a round of breath here. And then unraveling back through to center to the other side. Right hand finds the left knee this time. Lift the chest up and then twisting again to look over the shoulder. And then again, taking everything back through center. This time, palms or fingertips might find the ground in front. Maybe you stay here or walking the hands slightly further forwards and then lowering the chest down. We'll be here for around 2 slow, steady breaths. You could pop the chin under to find length through the back of the neck. Maybe you take a sway side to side. And then drawing ourselves all the way back up to seated, finding our way around to tabletop. So whether you're rolling over the knees, whether you're swiveling everything to the side here. Hands are roughly under our shoulders. Knees are roughly underneath the hips, and then toes tucked or untucked. See what feels better for you today. Into our cat-cow. So belly and shoulders drop down here, looking forwards. And then looking towards the knees, we push the ground away, arching through the shoulders, back, tailbone tucked under cat pose. And then moving between those 2 points here in your own time. If you would like to move with breath here, inhales to look forward, exhales to look back. Maybe your focus is really on dropping the shoulders down and then pushing up through the shoulders. If you are enjoying your cat-cow here, staying with this movement, or coming to a slightly different movement here, drawing our hips backwards towards the heels, over to one side, and then forwards around the hands, over to the other side to come back. So we're taking a big circle with the hips here. And as we do this, when we start to draw forwards, bringing a bit of weight into the hands, Maybe you feel that as you move here. And then again, at some point, taking those circles in the opposite direction as well. Maybe there's one more circle or cat-cow, whichever you are working with. And then dropping our hips back towards the heels to find your variation in child's pose. Either onto the forearms, maybe the forehead comes all the way down to the ground here. We're going to take a moment of pause in our child's pose. So again, your focus might be on the ground. You might focus in on the breath. And your child's pose, as is any other pose, is here whenever you want to come down and find rest. So giving yourself permission to find that when you would like. If you are feeling ready to find movement again, we might meet back in our tabletop. So that unravel back up to our tabletop, this time tucking the toes under and then lifting the hips up towards the sky. Our first downward dog of our practice. You might take a little bit of a check with the hands, roughly on the shoulders, fingers spread wide here, feet roughly in line with the hips, and then softness in the knees to draw our hips up towards the sky. Feel free to take that pedal out through the feet or bending through the knees here. We'll be here for another round of breath. And then looking forwards, making your way up to the top of your mat to find your forward fold. When you're there, feet could be underneath the hips, or you can take your toes closer together. I encourage you to really bend through the knees here to take us into our lower back rather than the back of the legs. You could take hold of either elbow and maybe you take that for a sway around as well. And then in your own time, that arm curl all the way up to standing, giving the shoulders a good roll when you get there. We're going to find our warming sun salutations together. And we'll start today with a couple of our standing sun salutations. And then we'll come through our Sunday. So building from our feet upwards here, feet might feel the mat beneath you. Maybe there's a gentle bit of a squeeze through the toes. And then softness in the knees, tailbone is tucked under, lift up with the chest, palm might face forwards, you can squeeze those shoulder blades behind gently. Your mountain pose. From here, hands find the side, and then all the way down to your fold. From our forward fold, lifting halfway. Top of the head is reaching forward here, and then folding back down and then finding the side. One round. Let's keep that going here. All the way back down, forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands come down and then sweeping to find the sky. One more time. All the way back down, forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands come down and then sweeping hands to the side. This time palms come together and then land back at the heart. Taking a moment in your standing pose. We're going to come back to that movement and then add in our sun A, coming all the way down to the floor. So when you are ready, reach up to the sky, all the way down to your floor. Lifting halfway. Hands come down as you step to your plank pose. Knees can be up or down here. Shoulders stacked over the hands. And then drawing our chest, belly all the way down. When you're there, hands stay under the shoulders. As we scoop the chest up, elbows in towards the ribs. And then tucking our toes, pushing back to meet in our downward facing dog. When you are there, taking a moment again in down dog. Maybe you have a little wriggle. And then looking towards the top of your mat, step up or walk forward fold. Rising halfway. Folding back down and then hands find the side. Let's keep that going here. All the way back down, forward fold. Lifting halfway. Hands to the floor as we step to our plank. Your way down to the floor, knees, chin, chest, or chaturanga. And then lifting the chest to find your back. Rolling back down as we tuck toes and meet in our downward facing dog. Keeping it going this time, looking forward, finding the top of your mat, rising halfway. Folding back down, hands find the sky, all the way back down, forward fold. Lift up halfway. Hands come down to the top. You're welcome to step to your plank, knees chin chest or chaturanga to come down. Lift to find back bend, optional to take that to up dog. And then meeting this time in our child's pose. So hips push all the way back towards the heels. Again, we're going to take that pause of 5 rounds of breath here. A moment to step back in through the body. See how you're doing after a little bit of movement. And then when you're ready, meeting back in our downward facing dog. Looking forward as we find our way to the top of our mat. Pausing in our fold this time. We're going to take a twist in our forward fold. So you can either take your right hand to the floor, or you can take your right hand to a block here. Either way, left hand starts to peel up the inside of your right arm and then opens towards the side. Bend can be there through your right knee. Maybe you look up towards your left fingertips. And then let's take that to the other side. Left hand finds the floor or your block. Right hand peels open towards the sky. Again, maybe you look up toward the fingers here. And then again, all the way back down. This time unrolling up to standing. When you get there, reaching the arms up overhead. And then palms come together at the heart. Awesome. Taking a round of breath. From here, starting the same, asana A as we open to the side, finding your fold, lift up halfway, hands to the floor if you step to plank or hop, your way to the floor here, lifting the chest up and then meeting in our downward facing dog. From our downward facing dog, right leg finds the side, 3-legged dog. And then stepping our right foot forward, just between the hand, left knee drops down and untuck the left knee, drawing ourselves up to our low lunge. So our hips stack roughly over the knee. Hands might find the side. We're going to find our twist to begin with. Left hand reaches forward, right hand reaches back. Palms are facing towards the right here. Holding for a breath. Option to take that front hand and find this side. Back hand reaching backwards. And then exhale, left hand all the way to the floor. Right hand stays. Maybe you look up at the fingertips here. Seeing if we can keep that hand lifted. So take our right foot to the back of the mat. On the inside of our foot here. Option to float the back foot. Maybe you have a play around with the wrist and the ankles. Awesome. And then let's go back to our tabletop. Lifting our hips up, tucking toes down and facing up to the other side. Right leg or left leg, and this time lift, stepping our left foot forward. Right knee comes down, toe untucks as we find the side. Switching to the left this time, right hand forwards, left hand back. Arms facing towards the left. Option to take that front hand up to the sky. And then all the way down, right hand lands, left hand stays high. Maybe you look up at the fingertips. And then seeing if we can step our left foot to the very back of the mat. Take a moment to find your balance here. Option to float the back foot, those wriggles through wrist and ankle. And then circling everything back down to our tabletop, meeting back in our downward facing dog. From here, rolling forwards to your plank pose. Knees, chin, chest, or chaturanga to find the ground. Lift up to your back bend and meeting back in our downward facing dog. Looking forward, step up or walk up over back forward. Rising halfway. Folding back down, and then hands find the sky, find each other, find the heart. Pausing here for one round of breath. And then inhale to open to the sky. Exhale to find the floor. Rising halfway. This time stepping just our right foot back, heel stays lifted, high crescent line, drawing the hands upwards. The hand is through both knees, twisting again here. Left hand forward, right hand back. Feel free to drop the knee if you would prefer. And then again, that front hand might find the side. This time your back hand might find your thumb. Looking upwards, holding here. And then let's cartwheel both hands to the floor, downward dog or three-legged dog, left leg behind. And then taking your downward dog all the way down through your vinyasa to the floor, lift the chest up, moving back in our downward facing dog. From the other side, left leg might find the side. Stepping our left foot forward, rising as the bungee jumps. So rising up first here, find your pose. And then right hand forward, left hand back as we find our twist towards the left. Option to take front hand to the front side, back hand to the thigh, maybe you look up. And then cartwheeling both hands down here as we step to our three-legged or downward facing dog. And then down dog through your vinyasa plank, knees, chin, chest, or chaturanga. Lifting the back bend, meeting in our child's pose this time. That could also be your downward facing dog. Whatever that is, taking a moment here to pause, to maybe check back in again, grab water if you need it. To stay resting or meeting back in our downward facing dog. So that uncurl of the body back up, toes to top as we take hips towards the sky. Looking forward back to the top of your mat, rising halfway. Folding back down, and find the sky, find each other, and then find the heart. We're going to start in that same sequencing again through our sun A to our downward dog to begin. So when you are ready, hands find this all the way down to your forward fold. Lifting halfway, hands come down, we step the up leg, your way down to the floor here, that lifting the chest up, and then meeting back in our downward facing dog. This time, the left leg takes to the thigh first. So left leg reaches behind, and then stepping our left foot forward, staying low with the torso here, dropping our right heel down, toes going to face the long edge of the mat. And then right hand is going to lead to circle us up to our warrior two. So bend yourself through that front knee, front pose facing forward, grounding through the outside of your back leg. Hands can stay at hips, or we can add our arms in here. A little bit of a circle to find your expression of this pose. And then let's take our warrior also movement, reaching forwards with the torso palm flip to find the sky reverse warrior. Seeing if we can still bend into that front knee. Maybe you look up at the fingertips. And then slowly through warrior two, left elbow lands on the left knee. Opposite hand reaches up or over, palm facing down. We're going to take that twice more. So when you're ready, uncurl up the reverse warrior left hand choose. And then all the way back down, extended side angle. One more time, opening up the reverse warrior. All the way back down, extended side angle. This time, opening warrior two. So drawing that triangle wide here. Grounding through the outside of your back. And straightening through our front leg. Hips draw backwards here. If we can answer that on a triangle pose, left hand reaches forwards first, also reaches forwards, and then that pivot of the left hand down. Could find your shin or ankle, or you can grab your block again here and place the hand. The right hand opens to the sky. Torso is twisted towards the right here. So find whatever you're working with, shoulders might be stacked. Again, you might look up at the top fingers here, taking one more breath. And then to come out, bending through our front knee, circling both hands up to the sky. Exhale to find the floor with our hands. Three-legged dog, left foot steps behind. Optional vinyasa, drawing forwards to your plank, all the way down to the floor, that lift of the chest up. And then again, meeting back in our downward facing dog for 3 rounds of breath. That could be your tabletop, your child's pose, or kneeling. And again, you're welcome to stay resting, or we might take that on the other side here. If you are joining, meeting back in our downward facing dog. This time our right leg finds the sky, three-legged dog, stepping our right foot forward, staying low with the torso. Left heel comes down, pose 45 degrees, pose towards the left side of the mat. And then the left hand scoops us up to open warrior two. I'm going to turn and face you here. So our right foot is forward, the right knee is going forwards as well, grounding through the outside of our left foot. Shoulders stacked over the hips, warriors. Maybe you're looking forwards over those front fingers. Your drishti or point to focus on here. And then reaching forwards with torso, flipping the palm, find the sky, reverse warrior. Again, drawing the knee forwards. Maybe you look up. And then slowly through warrior two, elbow lands on the knee, opposite hand reaches up or over, palm facing down, twice more. Draw up, reverse warrior. All the way back down, extend this. One more time, opening to the sky. All the way down, extend this side angle, this time landing warrior two, opening the arms, reaching wide, and then straightening through that front leg. Hips towards the back of your mat. Arms are reaching wide, torso reaches forward, and then pivoting down with the front hand to the inside of your ankle, your shin or your block. The left hand finds the sky this time. Fingertips are active all the way up. Maybe you're looking at the top hand. Your triangle pose. And then to come out, bending through our front knee, taking both hands up to the sky. And then all the way down to the floor, framing our foot. Right foot this time, step behind, three-legged dog. Either resting here in your child's pose or your vinyasa forwards to plank, all the way down to the floor. Lift the chest up. And then meeting back in our child pose again. Maybe it's a different variation where you take your arms alongside the body, palms facing up. Forehead could be on a block here or on the floor. Or be here for another 10 or so rounds of breath. So taking what it is you need here in this moment. And then again, when you're ready, you might meet back in our downward facing. Looking forwards as we step up or walk to the top of our mat forward fold. Rising halfway. Folding back down, hands find the sky, find the heart, and then this time find the hips. I'm going to come to our standing balance here. So again, I'm going to turn to face you. You might stay facing the top of your mat, hands might be on the hips. Maybe taking a good look down at your feet here, lifting toes, lifting ankles. It might be that a couple of times. And then grounding down through both feet. Center of gravity comes into our left leg. So softness in the right knee and then lifting the right knee up. Right hand might find the right. Opening the hip to the side here. Foot lands on the inside of your leg. Whether it is on your calf or the toes are down, or you could draw that up higher. Hands might stay where they are. They could also find the heart, or perhaps starting to open this up to the sky. Whichever variation you are working with here, seeing if we can find that gentle bit of lift up through the hips, lift up through the shoulders, finding length upwards. If you want to challenge yourself, keep hands lifted, otherwise taking them to the hips as we come to our second balance here. Lifting our right knee up and then taking heel behind us, torso comes down, warrior three. Hands might stay at hips, or you could reach the hands forwards here. Seeing if you can find length between your heel and the top of your head. Holding one more breath. Wobbles are totally welcome. And let's lower the toes down. Heel stays lifted. Bend is there through both knees as hands find the side. And then all the way down to your flag. Stepping yourself back through your vinyasa to the floor. Lift the chest up to find your back bend. And then again, meeting in our downward facing dog. Let's keep it flowing this time, looking forwards. Half of your mat forward fold. Rising halfway. Folding back down, hands find the sky, find the heart, and then come back to the hip. That little moment with the toes here, so looking down, lifting toes, and then lifting heels as we rise to the toes. Doing that a couple of times. And then center of gravity comes into our right leg this time. Left knee might lift and to left knee. Opening the hip to the side. Repose on this side too. Might feel different on this side. Going to point the focus on out in front of you. Hands might find hips. They might find your heart. Opting to open this up to the sky again. Seeing if we can find that lift or length upwards. And then again, into our warrior three. So lifting our left leg up, pivoting left heel back, torso comes down. Option to take the hands to hips or reach them forward here. Length through the spine. And then lowering the back toes down the spine this side. All the way down with the hands as we find our plank pose. All the way to the floor. Lift the chest up, and then again meeting in our child pose or our downward dog for 3 rounds of breaths. Again, you might stay resting in your child's pose. If you want to come to the top of your mat one last time, gently unwinding yourself up to your downward facing dog. Look forward as we travel back to the top of our mat. Lifting up halfway. Folding back down, hands find the sky, find the heart, and then pausing here. You could stay here, hands at heart, or you could release the hands alongside the body. Perhaps building from our feet upwards again, noticing the texture of your mat. And then that rise upwards as we stand for our last standing posture of our practice. We can take things a little bit slower as we wind back down here. Hands back on the side. And then all the way down to your fold. From our fold, lifting halfway, pausing here, seeing if we can find that length with the top of our head forward. And then hands find the floor as we heel toe our feet roughly as wide as the mat, turning our toes outward and then dropping the hips down into your malasana. Hands can stay down here. Or you could take hands onto the heart, elbows onto the inside of the hips. Again, seeing if we can find that bit of length upwards here. I'm going to take this all the way down onto our mat. So you could either reach the hands forwards here, or you can take them to the ground. Either way, see if we can slowly lower the hips down until eventually land, and then taking our legs out in front. We're going to find our variation of our forward fold here. Again, I'm just going to face you. So keeping our left leg out in front, and then right knee comes out to the side, tucking our right foot into the side of our thigh. See if we can keep our hips facing forward. So that little shift around here, and then arms might reach up to find the sky. Extension of the spine upwards, drawing forwards with the chest. Hands might reach towards the feet, they might land on the floor, they might land on the shin or on your toes here. And then wherever you are, taking a few rounds of breath. Chin could be tucked, or you could be looking forwards over the toes here. We're going to take this into a variation of our twist. So slowly rising back up with our torso, turning to face our knee on the right side, left hand might find the right knee, right hand might draw behind, and then turning to look over the shoulder again here. Holding for a couple of breaths. And then unraveling back through to center, taking that to the other side. So right leg comes long, left leg draws in, knee to the side, sole of the foot on the inside of your right leg. And then shuffling our hips, so we're facing our extended leg here. Extension of the hands upwards, yes, draws forward as we find our fold. Again, hands might land on floor, shins or toes. Either way, taking a moment to find what works for you. And then those 3 rounds of breath. And then slowly unraveling back up, taking ourselves over to the left this time. So right hand might find the left knee, and then left hand might reach around behind your hip, twisting to look over our left shoulder. And then again, pausing here. Unraveling back through to center again. Taking both feet out in front of us this time, maybe having a wriggle of the toes. I'm going to take one more forward fold here, go each choice. So you could stay with your feet out in front, you could take your legs wide, or you could take your feet together here. Choose which you want to work with today. I'll talk us through this one as this is where I've landed, but whichever variation that you are taking at home, finding a little bit of kind of awareness in the hips. So that might mean a wriggle around here, and then finding length up through the spine. So our chest is slightly lifted, pelvis is still tilted forwards here, extension of the hands upwards, and then again drawing forwards from our chest until you find that point where you don't want to go any further, and then softening the hands down. You might again tuck the chin under here. You could also draw the chin to look forwards. So finding what works for you. We'll be here for another 3 or so rounds of breath. Again, we don't have to be perfectly still here. You could have a bit of a sway, maybe movement with breath. And then as we start to unravel, drawing the torso up, whichever variation you are in, using the hands to kind of scoop the knees up together here. Feet find the floor. Hands come behind. Again, fingers might face towards you or away. And a bit of a sway of the knee side to side here. Gentle release through the hips. We're going to take this all the way down to the mat in a moment. We get there through our boat pose. Feet come out in front of us, knees to the sky. Feet and hip, feet and knees are roughly in line with the hip. And then just like we did before, hands by the knees, lift off our chest upwards. Pelvis is tilted slightly forwards here. And then you might pick one shin up and the other shin up, holding here. We're readjusting that lift of the chest up. Option to float the hand wide. And then holding for 2 rounds of breath. Slowly all the way down to the floor, staying if you can control right to the end, and then letting everything land. Maybe the hands flop out to the side. A moment to arrive back down on your mats. And you might draw knees back in towards the chest, giving yourself a hug and a squeeze, a rock and a roll. You could also take happy baby here if you prefer, taking hold of one or both feet, drawing the knees in towards your armpits. And again, taking that for a bit of a sway side to side. We're going to find our figure 4 into our twist here. So right foot might find the floor, left ankle crosses over the right knee, flexes there through the foot here. And then option to stay here or to draw your right thigh towards you. You might wrap the hands behind or over the knee. And then taking a couple of breaths here. See if we can keep shoulders and head grounded. And then dropping our right foot back down, staying in our figure 4, swaying everything over to the right. So left toes might come towards the floor. They could land or they might hover. Deciding where you want your arms, maybe a T shape here or overhead. And then adjusting this in any way you want for your twist. We'll be here for 5 rounds of breath. You could stay longer or unraveling back through to center, unraveling the legs. Both feet might land just for a moment here to see how that feels through the hips. And then when you're ready, taking our right ankle over the left knee, figure 4. Again, you could stay here or drawing your thigh closer towards you. Taking a couple of breaths. And then placing our left foot back down, drawing everything over to the left side. So right foot might land, it might hover. Redecide where you want your arms to be in your twist. And then taking those 5 rounds of breath on this side as well. Coming back through to center, unraveling yourself, a little bit of space here for whatever it is you enjoy within your practice. So that might be a happy baby. You could take your legs up towards the side. Anyone who's working with a shoulder stand, you could take a shoulder stand here, a bridge. It could also be a wriggle or rest. Whatever it is you would like in your practice. And when you feel ready, setting yourself up for your final resting pose here. So that could be stretched out long along your mat. You might take knees to the sky and not come together. You could also find seated or anything that feels comfortable to you here. We'll be here for around 5 minutes for our rest day. or maybe 4 minutes, and then seated. So whatever position you are in for your rest, taking any wriggles that you need here. Maybe a roll through the neck again. Your awareness might come back towards the breath. Taking those 5 slow, steady breaths. Each exhale, perhaps bringing softness through the body. So that might be a softness through the shoulders or through the hips. Maybe through the jaw. Maybe there's even softness in the feet, in the palms of your hands. Focus might stay on the breath. Perhaps letting your awareness drift wherever it's taken within your breath. Be here for around another minute or 2. And no pressure to stay still. Rest. To draw back together. Next 5 or so rounds of breath. Perhaps inviting gentle movements back into the body. So wriggles of fingers, wriggles of toes. The roll of the head side to side. Find your own way, expanding those movements into other areas. So that might be back into wrists, ankles. Maybe you want to take a full body stretch here, or curl everything up close to your center. And there is an invitation to draw through to seated to close your practice. You might take a roll to one side and pause there first. At some point, making your way through to seated and finding whatever a comfortable seat looks like for you. Hands might find the knees, it could find your lap, or your chest. Perhaps finding a bit of tallness through your torso again. Gentle rise up. You might focus on the ground in front of you or close the eyes here. Taking this moment to honor our practice. So that might mean sending yourself kindness and compassion. Thanking yourself for taking this time out of your day to be on your mat. That space is there to take 3 deeper breaths if you would like to. Inhale to fill up the lungs and belly. And then exhale to stop. Inhale to fill up. And then one more time. Drawing back to your natural rhythm of breath. You might bring palms together at the heart in Anjali Mudra, and then taking that bow to self. Closing your practice here.